everyone, and welcome back to the More Than Words podcast, where we talk about romance, creativity, and the real lives behind the books. I am your host, Dakota Willink, USA Today bestselling author of Dark Billionaire Romance. Today's episode is a little extra special because not only are we celebrating Valentine's Day, but it's also the birthday month of today's guest, Shayla Black. If you are not familiar with Shayla, I actually cut my romance teeth on Shayla years ago when I fell in love with her Wicked Lover series. In fact, when it comes to authors who influence my writing the most, she actually comes to mind. I don't know if she knows that, but I'm going to tell her in our little chat today. She truly is one of romance's most iconic voices, in my opinion. Shayla Black is a New York Times and USA Today bestselling author of more than 90 romances across contemporary, erotic, paranormal, and historic genres. Her books have sold millions of copies, have been published in over a dozen languages, and have kept readers blushing well past their bedtime for years. Shayla's career actually spans decades, genres, and evolutions in publishing, and somehow she still makes it all look effortless. I'm thrilled to have her here for our Valentine's Day episode, especially as she prepares for her next release, and then it's the next installment of the Forbidden Confession series. So that said, before I bring Shayla in, I want to remind you to do what I always tell you to do, to please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help our visibility and boost the algorithm to show this content to more people like you. So that said, let me bring Shayla in. Hello. Oh, you're muted. How are you? It looks like you're
I'm
muted.
good.
Oh,
How
there
are
you go.
you?
There you
Yeah,
go.
no, it's my AirPods. Like they're being a little weird today.
No, I think you're good. Are you? How are you? How are you doing? You staying warm? You get.
You know, one
You
day here
gotta
in
be
Dallas,
freezing. Yeah.
it's so weird. I was telling people like, we get the weird, like snowy, icy, like about once every 3 or 4 years, and it was just our turn. And I'm looking at the ice in my driveway that still hasn't melted since last Saturday,
I'm in Buffalo,
even though it was
so
50 yesterday.
I've had ice. I've had ice since November, so I'm in Buffalo. So
Okay.
yeah.
I used
It
to
is
fly back when I had a
exceptionally cold here right now though. Like it's below like normal temperatures. Normally we're around 28, 30 degrees and we're like -3 today. It's so cold. Yeah.
my assistant lives in Golden Valley, North Dakota.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so incredibly
Yeah.
cold
That's cold.
there, like in general. And she's like, it's been warmer for us this year, but I think all y'all are getting it further east.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a cold winter. Colder than normal. I'm looking outside and there's a lot of snow too. We don't Buffalo's known to get like tons of snow, but we actually don't. Like Syracuse gets a lot more snow than we do. Is what happens is when we do get snow, we get lake effects and we get, 4 feet in one day. So we make the national news. So people think we have all this snow all the time. And we actually have had like more green Christmases than not, like over
Wow.
the last 15 years or so. So
We
anyway,
we
yeah,
get
it's kind
we
of
just get
crazy.
it every like so often, but we're just not built for it, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is for us, it just becomes people with the bursting pipes. Like our houses just aren't built for an average winter day for us is 55 degrees.
Yeah.
Like
My
it
daughter
was
is in
82 on Christmas Day.
wow. My daughter's
Yeah.
in New York. She's in DC and they got like a foot of snow and they don't know how to get rid of it. Like so
Yeah.
she's like people are just driving over it, making their own roads. The sidewalks, they don't shovel. She's like, no, so now everything's packed down ice. She's like, I
Oh
hate
yeah.
DC. She's like, they don't know how to handle
We
snow.
don't
But
either. Like it's one
yeah.
reason we were trapped for days. It wasn't that it was
Mhm.
so much. It was that like we literally have like two salt trucks.
Yeah.
I mean, and they hit the highways, but that's and some
I
major
think I have
roads, but
20 just for my town, like some
yeah.
trucks. Yeah.
No,
So,
we still, like I said, I'm looking at ice on my driveway. It was 50 yesterday, but my driveway just gets no sun. So it's still
wow.
like we
Yeah.
can't really we're going to get out today finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, even though it's January when we're recording, end of January, this is our Valentine's Day episode when it airs. So I just want to thank you for joining me for that. And it's also your birthday month. So
It is. It was my
um,
birthday Wednesday.
it's so your February, what is that, 5th, 4th? What day is that?
No, it was
Wednesday.
January 28th.
January 20th. Oh, I thought February was actually your birthday month. Oh, okay, so
Mm-mm.
your birthday. Okay, well, happy belated birthday by like a couple
Thank you.
days.
Not that I really wanted to be celebrating anymore. It's like
I
you start
know. I feel like after
uncomfortably
40,
creeping.
I know after I turned 40, I'm like, it's just another day. We're gonna pretend like it doesn't exist. For a few years there, I was like, where are we going on vacation so I don't have to think about it?
I am now 2 years from 60.
Wow, you look
Yes.
amazing.
Thank you.
Wait,
But I'm like, what the
wait.
what? How am I 58 this year?
I actually have it on my list to like talk to you about skincare because like
It's one
I'm
of my
like
passions in
huge
life.
into like the Korean skincare and your skin is always flawless. So
Thank you.
like yeah, so we will talk about that like in a moment. I don't
100%. It's
remember.
one of my favorite subjects.
Oh yay, yay. When I was introducing you before I pulled you in, I was telling readers like that you were like one of the first people like I called it like my romance teeth on. I was reading romance before you, but you really is where I started reading the like the sexier, steamier type books. And I have an embarrassing story. You probably don't even remember it, and thankfully you don't, because it was literally mortifying when I think back on it. Um, it was the first time I ever met you. It was at RT. I was like a baby author. I think I had been published for like a year and a half. And it was the last RT, Romantic Time signing. It was the one that was in Reno, and yeah,
Yep. That's where I
yeah.
got a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yes. And you were, yep, that was a big deal for you. And I was like, oh, and somebody had said to me, there's nobody at her table because the signing itself, I remember, was very slow. And they said, there's nobody at her table if you want to go out. I'm like, sure. Like nobody was coming to see me, at that time. I think I had two books out.
Moved people around. And so the seating chart, if you remember, the fire marshal made them move everybody. So the seating chart that was in the thing was not where anyone was.
Is that why
So
Meredith Wild was sitting next to me?
it could
Like
be
in the
because all of a
rows? Because I
sudden,
was like, she should not be sitting next to me. She was like a big, that was when her hacker series like made it huge. I'm like, she needs to be on the wall. I'm like, why is she sitting next to like little me? It was the weirdest thing. Yeah.
came in. Joe Carroll was in tears. The fire marshal came in at the last minute, was like, you have to move these people over here, and these people have to be in another room. And so everything was just fucked up from the
Oh,
start.
wow. That
And
explains a
she was like,
lot.
I don't know what to do.
Wow, that stinks. That explains a lot. But yeah, but I remember I walked over to like introduce myself to say, tell you I enjoyed your books. When I think about influences in my writing, your name is always one of the first names that like came to mind. Um, and now, I mean, I can talk to you just fine. But that day, it was the first time I've ever fangirled in my entire life. I literally, my heart was jumping out of my chest. I've never experienced anything like that before. So I will thank you for preparing me for the day I eventually meet Harrison Ford, because now I know how to handle that reaction.
Well, and it's so funny because from the other side, when it happens to you, you're like, listen, I'm just a girl who puts my underwear one leg on the one
Yeah,
leg at a
I
time. Like it's,
know.
I don't know.
Well, now here I am 10 years later, and I've actually had that experience where people have said that to me, and I'm like, I'm just a person. So it's kind of like,
Exactly. Where you're
yeah,
like, I mean, I'm thrilled and that's exciting, but like, girl,
yeah.
let's just hang out and have a margarita,
I know, right? Right. So, well, before we get into all the bookish stuff, tell me something that you are loving right now and something that you're hating.
So I have been, and my husband tried to get me on this for the longest time, and I kept resisting. I watched season one and I was like, well, that's nice. And then I never came back. And then all of a sudden he like dragged me screaming into this Stranger Things
Okay.
thing. And then literally by the time it was over, I was like, just give me all the things. Christmas and New Year's was just like I was absorbed. I could not
See,
stop
we
myself.
watched like seasons 1 through 4-ish. I think we finished four, but it got to a point where I'm like, where is this going? Or maybe it was three. Is there four season or five? Five, yeah. So I think we got to like close to the end of the fourth one. I'm like, I don't know where this is going. And then it wasn't that I wasn't interested, it was a time factor more than anything. And now everybody is talking about season five, and I have not. I need to go back and rewatch season four because everyone's raving about it. Like, actually, I think you're like the fourth author I've interviewed this year that has been talking about it. Like,
Because what I ultimately realized, and I have to give the Duffer brothers a lot of credit for this, they understood that it wasn't, I mean, the monsters are cool and the lore is cool and all that, but they understood it's ultimately about characters and people and growth.
Hmm.
And so when you um like, and I'm particularly always interested in those like father daughter kind of, relationships, like you got with 11 and Hopper, or like you got in The Last of Us between Joel and Ellie, like all of those
That
sort of.
killed me, The Last of Us.
The first time I played that game, like shortly after it was out, I just sat there at the end and sobbed. I was like,
Yeah.
this is so touching and sweet.
We
You
have
know,
the we bought the game because of the show, but I watched the show
oh,
first before the game, and then I was so mad that I'm like, I'm not. I heard about what the next season is going to be. I'm like, not doing it. I'm not. I don't want my heart ripped out again. I'm done. Like, so,
exactly. I was like, I love Joel. I mean,
yeah,
it's a savage world and he has to be a savage person to survive. That's just reality.
yeah, yeah. It was just too sad that I'm like, I can't. I just I
Yeah,
was so mad about the whole thing. But
100%. I
so
was
when you
like,
said that, I was
and
like, yeah,
I'm done. But Stranger Things for me was, I loved that everybody, like, if you think about who Steve was, for instance, at the very beginning, he was just an absolute douchebag and nobody liked him.
yeah,
And by the end, he was like the protector. He went way out of his way, especially to take care of Dustin, like all the friendships. And it was just, I think, so touching to watch them collectively come together and understand it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about everybody having to work together to make this happen.
yeah. All right, I'm all right. You convinced me. I'm gonna have to
You got
go
to
in
do
and
it,
watch
girl.
it. I gotta go back and watch it. For me, something I'm currently loving is so like all those like limp lip like plumping things. They always sting my lips. I can't stand them. I found
Yeah,
one that it does not do that. It's called Revision Skincare. It's like this tinted like youthful lip replenisher, and I'm like obsessed
very
with it. I
cool.
just got it like a week ago, so that's what I'm
Okay,
currently like loving
that's
right now.
good. That's cool.
What are you hating right now?
I wouldn't say hating. I think I'm one of these weird people. I do a lot of things like curiously.
Hmm.
So like I don't sleep. I can't sleep with silence. I don't even sleep with music anymore. I sleep to sleep documentaries, which is odd. Like, and everything about, it could be Atlantis, it could be the Jurassic period, it could be outer space, it could be geology. Like I'm just very strange and I like all kinds
It's
of.
like talking to you, like when you
Hmm.
sleep, that's how you go to
Hmm.
sleep.
Yeah.
Ah,
And I have actually literally here sleep earbuds.
hmm.
They're not normal earbuds, they're meant for sleep. So they come in a case and they're like rubbery
Yeah,
and they lay flat
yeah. Oh,
because my brain is too active. So unless somebody's talking in my ear,
yeah,
my brain does this all night long. So if somebody else is talking,
yeah. I
I
have a
can
hard
actually
time
sleep.
falling asleep. Like it's usually a good 45 minutes before I can fall asleep. But my husband can go to sleep like this. But if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm up for an hour. Like I just
Oh,
can't
at
because
least
my brain is constantly, yeah, constantly
constantly
going.
going,
Yeah.
constantly going. I think the other thing I'm kind of curious about right now, if you've ever watched, this is so random, the difference between American dating shows and Korean dating shows.
No, I have not, but I'm wondering if my daughter can speak Korean, and part of teaching herself Korean for 'cause her degree is she went to Georgetown Foreign Service. That's where she has a master's from there, and what her language was Korean, and part of how she learned was by watching all these Korean dramas, and she's obsessed with them. So I have to wonder if she's watched the Korean the Korean
So they have a
dating
show
show.
like, so if you've ever watched like a Too Hot to Handle or something like that,
Mhm.
I mean, American dating shows, right?
Yeah,
Like all the things all the time. Korean dating shows are so restrained. They literally just sit there and have conversation. And everyone's so shy, they barely make eye contact. It's just fascinating. Go watch a show called Singles Inferno.
that's interesting. That's
It's
really
it's
interesting.
just fascinating to see the complete difference in the way they do a dating show based on culture.
Interesting. I'll have to ask my daughter and see if there's like if she's seen it or maybe even just check it out myself. My problem is the subtitles, but maybe it's not going to be an issue anymore because I have contacts, so I can actually see. So I might subtitles might not be an issue for me anymore.
I finally got used to them because I do watch a lot of my daughter and I watch a lot of K dramas too.
Yeah.
And so I think I finally got used to subtitles, and now I actually like them on everything because I just find it's easier for me to read sometimes. because
Yeah.
I'll run around the house and do things. And so sometimes I'll listen, but sometimes I just want to like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
different understanding.
Something that I'm hating right now is, so I promised myself I was going to slow down this year, and I haven't. It's this pressure to keep up, like, and I'm really hating it because I'm like, I really thought I was going to slow down, and the way this year has started out, I'm like, ugh, like, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna try. But that actually kind of my thing that I hate kind of like leads me into the first thing I was actually going to talk about with you, because you're it says right in your bio that you've been writing romance for decades. Exactly how long have you been writing for?
My first book in 1998.
1998. So you are the most seasoned author that I've hosted out of everybody, because most people started in the 2000s, like the mid 2000, mid to late 2000, well, like the 2010s ish.
The 2010s, lots of 2010s.
Yeah, lots of
And I
2010s.
can tell you from the perspective of somebody who actually, like, I first got interested in writing romance. I was still in college. So it was like the very late 80s.
Mhm.
And at the time, it was all like historicals still. Like everybody was writing historicals. There was, or Harlequin. That was literally it.
Mhm.
And it was probably, yeah, right around. It was shortly after 2000 that you saw the flip really over from
Mhm.
mainly historicals to mainly, some form of contemporary, and then the rise of, like Alora's Cave and Sam Hain and some of the small online presses that would, go places where traditional publishers had never wanted to go before. So then you saw the rise of, all kinds of erotic
Contemporary.
romance and different sort of subgenres. You saw a lot of um, sci-fi that you had never seen before. Just it was sort of the Wild West because anything went right. And then you had the associated struggles of what is a book? Is an ebook a book? Does it have to be a physical book? Does it have to be in a bookstore to be a physical book? Does it like all of these? Everybody trying to define what is a book instead of just saying like let's just all read a book, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it just went on, and then of course, post 50 Shades explosion was then a whole nother group of authors. So I feel like I've been here long enough really to see three distinct groups of authors, come in. Not to say that there haven't been at other times, but like lots of them
Yes.
as different things in the industry would change and evolve. And I think we're going to see more of that, honestly, going forward.
Before I started reading you, I was basically like a Nora Roberts reader. That was essentially the steamiest books that were out there that weren't a Harlequin, because there was a lot of Harlequins, but I enjoyed the story that came with a Nora Roberts book that you didn't. It wasn't quite as prominent, I don't feel like, in a Harlequin book. And I think that's why I loved your books so much, especially like the Wicked Lover series, those ones, because they were big fat books. They were long, and they had a lot of story. They were more story than sex, and but yet it was still super steamy. Um and that was I feel like, as a reader, that was where I saw like the biggest change, the biggest shift. You were able to see, like, you still got like those Nora Roberts story, and got the steam that you would get in Harlequin. It was like this mashup, if that
It
if
was
that makes sense.
freeing finally to be able to and I wrote for Penguin Random House for almost 20 years.
Mhm.
And most of that time I spent with one editor. And it was so freeing because she would just be like, what do you want to do now? And, I would say, okay, well, I want to blah, 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 blah. And she would be like, cool. Okay. And there was never any, like, but you have to keep it to this number of words, or we want this number of sex scenes, or you can't do this, or you can't do that. Like, she was always really like, we'll do, whatever you think is like, let's make it work. um
It's actually, it's funny you say that. So when you talk about things and how they've evolved, because that was actually something I was going to ask next, like, how do you think things have changed since you first began? And listening to what you're saying right now, and comparing it to my own personal experiences with what I'm having, So I had an agent, which I just got rid of. I'm on the hunt for like a good agent again because the other one just wasn't, she was very nice, but nothing was really happening. And I have, I have the sales numbers. I have, I have everything that I need. So it's not, so getting the audience usually with a publisher isn't the issue. But my issue that I have is that I write typically dark billionaire. And they're like, oh, we already have two dark billionaire romance authors. You can't infringe in their space. So I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, so you can't have like another one? Like, we write different words, but that's what it is. They're like, nope, we have two billionaires or one billionaire author. Now we're going to have one hockey romance author and one, like this, it's insanity to me, but that's what I'm up against right now.
Marketing department. It's not about the editorial staff. It's not,
Mm-hmm.
it's about the marketing department who's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we've already invested so many dollars
Mm-hmm.
in this person and they have a book coming out here. And then the other person that we have in that space has a book coming out here. And it's, and okay, it's also about the sales department. So it's marketing, like how many dollars you can put into a dark billionaire. And then also how much money can you set aside to sell in to all the chains and whatnot for that kind of book also when you're like, okay, I've already got one in March and I've got one in July and I'm, and then the end of the year is typically a lot of holiday romances. So the amount of money that you would have to spend on something like that so that you could get the good table placement or the face out placement or all of that kind of stuff is typically like they're only going to do so much and because they can only penetrate that market so much in a given calendar year, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
They're
that's,
always trying to like protect the investment they have and the people they already have. So they're, I mean, I have a good friend who came to a point where they were like, okay, I know you've written XYZ for all these years. How do you feel about switching to cowboys? And she was like, wait, what? I don't write cowboys. And they're like, well, we have space in our roster for somebody who wants to write, contemporary cowboys. And she's like, that's completely not my audience. And they're like, but we could make it big for you. She's like, I don't want to.
from a marketing standpoint though, that is not a good choice.
No.
So like,
Well, which is why I think, New York is I still struggling.
yeah.
They've abdicated so much of the market to indies because leaner, faster, can move, can see the shifts in the market, don't have to worry about what
Yeah.
anybody else is doing.
See, and I was writing well, it's considered darkish now, like because it's I forget somebody told me a term for it. I meant to coin and I or start using it I didn't use it. I forget what it is. I have to look it up. But I say darkish because I feel like I was dark 5 years ago and now dark romance is really pushing the envelope. So I don't know. Things have just have really changed. And where was I going with this? Oh, I had a thought. Oh yeah. So I tried to pivot because I just needed because I was writing dark billionaire, but then I went and wrote like a dark romantic thriller, and it was like a lot of domestic abuse. It was kind of like a sleeping with the enemy story. I had interviewed a lot of women, and it was just emotionally draining. So I'm like, I'm gonna go a little bit lighter. And I did something completely out of the ordinary. I went with like a new adult, second chance, small town mashup, right? And it, I mean, it sells only because my readers are loyal and they kind of follow through, but I cannot market that to save my life because I am known for the dark billionaires. And that's what my readers want. And I feel like if like publishers, they need to capitalize on that. If this is an author's strength, why are you telling them to go somewhere else?
It's
It seems,
because they don't, it's not about you, it's about them.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one reason, in 2019, I made the decision. I fulfilled the last book in my contract, and they were like, what do you want to do now? And I was like, it's been fun, but I think I want to go do my own thing now because I had things that I wanted to do and they weren't necessarily all the same thing.
Mhm.
So in the meantime, like I had already started writing a series that my Read Family Reckoning series, which is more kind of mid heat, straight contemporary romance, not suspense, not dark, not any of the things that I was known for. But
Yeah.
it was something I really wanted to do. I had um, my husband and I had a 25th wedding anniversary trip forever ago now in Maui. And this sounds so silly, but we were there for a while. And I looked up one day and I looked at him and we were out having lunch and I had a pedicure and so like, and I was like, people live here. And he looked at me like I was insane. And I was like, no, no, no. But like, people live here, they get married here, they have babies here, they have breakups here. I was like mind blown all of a sudden. I was like, I
Not
want to
just a
write
vacation spot. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, I see this thing in my head. And he was like, okay, honey, that's sweet.
You're like, we're supposed to be on vacation. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's my brain.
Your brain, I know.
It is, and I know you know. So, I did that because I wanted to do that, and I didn't want to say to, my editor, like, hey, can we take a sharp left turn?
Hmm.
But it was something I wanted to do for me.
Yeah.
And, I got to the point where I was like, I want a little more freedom to even go beyond
Yeah.
and put out more books. That's the other thing. When you're strictly trad, they want like 2 books a year.
Yeah.
I wanted to write more than 2 books a year. And, with anti-compete clauses and all of that, I was just like, I need to do something different.
So they were holding you back. See, and I'm like in a totally different position because for me, I've been indie by choice for a decade. This is what I wanted to be indie. My books have been, I've translated them myself into 7 different languages. I've done all the things. I've, hit all these milestones and was doing amazing. I'm like, I don't need the publisher until I felt like I kind of hit a ceiling. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I can only like when I noticed it more so when I was trying to get into like bookstores. When we were trying, me and my publicist, we were trying to do that. And I'm like, these are the spaces I want to be in, but you need the publishing label. You need so I'm like, okay, for me to do what I want to do next, I need to have at least 1 or 2 titles with a publisher for me to get into these other spaces that
Even
I
then,
can't reach
it's
on my own.
really difficult
Yeah.
beyond what your publisher, because, they have the sell in and they have the sales staff and
Mhm.
like that's their bag, right?
Mhm.
But, unless you want to set up trying to be
Mhm.
basically your own publisher and take the returns and do all of the
Mhm.
back end,
Yeah.
business stuff, which I never wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to do all that either. I don't want to have warehouses. I want to, I want to write words, and I feel like, and that's another thing too, is I feel like I've spent so much time on marketing. I don't have nearly enough time to write. And
It's a tough
and a lot of it
choice.
is, I've gone through different members of my team. Like I've had different team members and I have a great PA and I have a great publicist, but there's certain things that they just can't do. Like Facebook ads. Like I do all my own Facebook ads. It's stuff, there's stuff like that. Like, and when they're not working, I can't, nobody else is going to be able to figure it out. Only I can because I know my brand better than anybody else.
And you know your books better than
Mhm.
anybody. You know the hooks, you know what
Yep.
works, you know what people
Yeah.
respond to, and that I think becomes the problem. Everybody wants to hire somebody when they don't understand ads, but I think it behooves you more to try to understand ads because you're trying to get somebody who's not versed in your books to understand what makes them
Yeah.
function, and that's just not an easy thing.
Every time I've tried to use another like service or company, I actually have Amazon right now. Amazon, the company, is running my Amazon ads. And I'm telling, this has been going on for 2.5 months. And now they don't know how to run their own advertising. I think like they're very good. They're very knowledgeable, but they're not like, I gave them all the tools. I'm like, here's the hooks. Here's the things, and it's not, they're not targeting right. They're not like, there's just things, and I'm going back in and I'm looking at the ads. I'm like, well, you have to change this and you have to change that because it won't translate to this type of reader. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll make the adjustments. And now it's, here I am, I'm 2.5 months in, and I have like another few weeks on this like contract with them, and I'm kind of like, why did I even bother? I'm telling them what to do. Like this is, yeah.
that's that's part of the issue too, is you have so many people who like want to do the ads. Lots of people out there will tell you like, oh, I can run ads for anybody, but I've actually talked to people outside of the book world
Mhm.
who run Facebook ads, and it's interesting because I hear some of the same things over and over,
Yeah.
which is you kind of really have to understand what it is and what the selling point is, and if it's something too intrinsic and hard for an outside person or body to understand, they're like, it just never works right. You can get some short-term success, but you're never going to get what you're really looking for, which are more like evergreen-ish
Mhm.
ads, if there's such a thing anymore. But
No, I don't think there is. Facebook doesn't like things that have been running for too long. I spend way too much time on
Change some
ads now.
things.
Way too much.
Andromeda changed some things.
Yeah, it's been a nuisance actually because I used to be able to just kind of set it and forget it. I had the same ad running for like 2 years. It's like
Mhm.
40,000 likes. I mean, the social proof on it was crazy. And now so Facebook is like, no, we don't like this on it anymore. I'm like, why? It worked for years.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why. The frequency, yeah, you know how that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. So, well, so we talked about how the industry has evolved over the years. How do you think your stories have evolved? Like,
You know what? I think it's like, sometimes when you do something and you're like, okay, so I did that. I know what that's like. And I want to build on that. And then I want to keep building on that. And so I think as I've evolved, I've figured out, like, I've written a ton of different people, lots of different themes. And I think I find now that I just want to keep projecting in different ways. It's sort of a good thing, bad thing for me that, and I get this from my readers all the time. They're like, I kind of never know what to expect from you because it's not, they're like, there are some people who write basically the same story over and over and they change character names and they'll change a few details and they're like, with you, I never know. They're like, every book I open is going to be an adventure. And I was like, because that's kind of how my brain
that's
functions.
probably why I enjoyed reading you so much. Like, all these years ago. Now I'm a terrible reader. I listen to audio when I have
For
time.
time,
Like, it's just a time thing. But
it
I did
is.
read a lot of your books. In fact, we were just reorganizing all our stuff in the basement. I have a whole shelf full of like Shayla Black paperbacks, like the trade paperbacks. But I was actually talking about this to Aletha Romig, and I think that's why I love her writing too, because she's not predictable. Um, and that is I like formula. A lot of readers love formula books, and that's great. That's fine. Authors have seen a lot of success with it. I
Sure.
personally would be bored writing formula romance.
Same.
Yeah, and I don't usually read it. And it's not that I don't read it. I will read it and it's fine. But after I read so many by the same author, I know the rest of the story. It happened to me. I
Exactly.
remember reading Mary Higgins Clark years ago, like long, long time ago. And I
Yeah.
probably got through like 15 books of hers.
Yeah.
And this is before, I don't even know if she was still writing or if she had a ghostwriter at this point. I don't, because she had passed and I think the
Yeah.
family, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember. So
Yeah.
I don't
Probably
remember if she
hired a
was still, yeah,
ghostwriter.
I don't remember if she was still alive or not, but I remember I got to about 15 books and I'm in chapter 4 and I already knew who the killer was. Like I already knew who done it,
So I remember like cutting my teeth on in like middle school and high school and like Danielle Steele, right? But after you read a bunch, you're like, okay, they're going to be in San Francisco or Carmel,
Yeah.
and there's going to be some billionaire and someone's going to die, and there's going to be a betrayal, and like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
mm-hmm,
Yes. Yep. That's pretty
mm-hmm,
much it. Yeah. So, okay. Well, you have a new book coming out in your Forbidden Confessions series, right? Or is
yeah,
that the name of is that the name of the book or the series?
series.
That's the
So
series.
yeah, well, two things actually. I had a book out that dropped on my birthday,
Okay.
and which
What's that book? What's the name of it?
okay, so it's actually a book I write with Jenna Jacob, and it is a long term series that I actually launched in 2012, and it's called Unbroken, and it is an MFM, dark MFM
Mhm.
series. And so these are the beefy, like, this is the biggest book I've ever released, ever. 160,000 words.
Wow.
Kid you not. Almost 161. I was like, we
Wow.
need to shut up.
Yeah.
But they're told in 4 book sagas. So this is now book 8. So we just finished saga 2. Um, it's it's everything. It's one of my favorite worlds to write in. We started it. It was supposed to be like our kind of BDSM dungeon soap opera, and so we were just having fun with lots of soapy tropes and all kinds of stuff like that. But as the world has evolved, it's gotten a lot more serious and a lot more. We were kind of a little tongue in cheek to start with, and now it's like super duper. just very serious and lots of, it's been a fun evolution. But yeah, the book came out the other day. It's not on platforms yet. It's exclusively right now on my site and Jenna's site. It will be coming, but it's just been so interesting to follow the same three characters for a 500,000 words
Wow.
twice.
That's a lot. Yeah, no, 500,000 words is about that's my Stone Saga. It's 5 books, same couple. Because I typically write a little bit long, but that's, well, not so much anymore. I feel like everyone's starting to write a little bit long, but before there was like the cutoff, like the books had to be between 60 and 80,000 words. And I've always been like 100,000 words. So now I say like, I was saying I write long, but I think that's becoming more normal.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, and then and
And
you become invested in those characters. Like,
yeah, so we wrote, 4 books about the first trio, and then we were, spinning into this next trio, and now we're done with that. And we're like, everybody's like, great, what's next? I'm like, can I have a breath? We literally finished about an hour before we downloaded, like people could download the books.
wow. What
It
is
was, we were
that
cutting
like?
it so close.
I am always fascinated by hearing like about different co-writes and how people do it. Like the Piper Rain duo, like I know how they do it. I know I've talked to other people like and how they do it, and it's always
Yeah.
interesting to hear the process. Because I always thought about doing it, but I don't know what I would want it to look like, you know?
So it's different. I had a couple of different, co-author relationships, and I've done it 2 different ways. Um, the way I always did it with Lexi Blake was we each had things in the books that we liked to write more than others.
Hmm.
She wanted to write the dialogue and the humor and the action, and I wanted to write the characterization, the emotion, and the sex. So it was kind of like she would write this dialogue action skeleton, and then I would come behind her
Yeah.
and layer in all the other things. Like we would plot together and talk together, but I was the editorial voice. That's sort of, I prefer that. Like if I wasn't writing, I would probably be editing.
Hmm.
um and she never wanted to edit. She would just be like, here, like
Yeah.
once I hand you, the dialogue and the action and the humor, like you just go do all the rest of whatever. And so
Yeah.
that, and she would never read it on the back end. She was like, okay, is it done? I was like, mm-hmm. And she's like, yay.
Yeah.
That was, whereas with Jenna, we actually started this as an exercise for 2 things. It was for funsies, and we started this bizarre little story where we were just like messing around one day, and we were talking about how interesting it would be to just each invent a character and a situation, and just as a writing exercise, almost like to open your day. And then we started timed writing because I was like, I need to get faster and think more on my feet, because sometimes I would sit there and stare at the same line like forever.
That's my
And I was like,
problem.
I can't keep doing this. So I would be like, sometimes like your gut instinct is the right response, right? And overthinking it can actually take, drain the story out of it. So I ended up, we did this sort of exercise, and I created a character and she created a character, and we just started typing, talking with this weird little scenario. And all of a sudden we were like, wait, hold up. There's actually a really good story here. And so we started it as we're each going to take a character and just have them be organically who they are, not so much pay attention to the story, but let's just evolve the character and see how that evolves the story. And so that was pretty much how we started. And I think as we finished, it's kind of been more of a blend of the two, because it is hard, when it's like taking a driving trip and you have your map out, but you don't really know where you're going.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe we'll have a little bit more idea about where we're going. And so we have plotted a lot more as the series has continued. But interestingly, we always somehow serendipitously wind up where we're supposed to wind up.
So you don't really have you just kind of just go with it with her. There's not really a process. I mean, there is, but not like you had, it seems like you had a more defined process with Lexi.
Yeah, well, because it was literally just about what we each wanted to do.
Hmm.
And this was more like, I think I'm just fascinated by the idea that so many people are either plot writers or character writers,
Hmm.
but finding some happy place in the middle is kind of, for me, something I always want to try to be somewhere in the middle, because I think if you pay too much attention to just character, then you have a lot of people who are like, this book's really slow. It's taking a long time for so and so to realize thus and such. Like, I'm already bored and over it. But if you have too much plot, then you have kind of the opposite, right? Where
Yeah.
you're like, uh, you know, uh, like, as much as, and no shade at all, like, I read the Da Vinci Code before it really became a big deal. And I remember thinking, I loved so much about this, but there was no character change.
Yeah.
By the end,
It was the
these
same
people were
guy.
exactly the same
Yep.
people they were when
There
they
was no
started the
character
book.
arc. You're correct.
None.
None. Hmm.
And for me, I tend to fall more on the character side.
Hmm.
So while I'm fascinated by that, like I said, I'm always looking
Hmm.
for some sort of happy middle ground where you feel like the people who want more action get served, and yet the people who want character arcs get served.
Yeah, that's actually because you're making me think about like my strengths. And yeah, the sex scenes I always like bookmark them. I'm like, I'll do that later. I put that off. Character arcs can be a bit of a challenge because I spend so much time making sure I get them right, but they're not anything that comes like very natural to me. But give me a plot, like a storyline, give me a setting, give me like all, the descriptive, like I can, all that stuff comes very natural to me. But doing, like I said, like the sexy scenes and those characters, that's more of like a challenge.
We're
Like,
polar opposites.
yeah. So
Because
I'm
the
more of like a Lexi
character
type writer, I feel like.
the character stuff comes really, like, super. That's just where it lives for me. And so many authors you talk to, they talk about the movie in their head.
Mhm.
I am not a visual person. I'm not a spatial person. Like, none of that. I see nothing.
Oh, see, I have the movie in my head. I
Every like
I can picture
75%
like
of authors do.
I write to an ending. I can visualize what I want this ending to look like, and I write to that. Like I don't outline. Like I try, but I can't. Um
I used to
yeah,
be a
and
big plotter, and now I'm more of a planter.
a plantster. That's a good word, plantster. So, well, we talked about like the whole like the business side of everything and how busy we are. With just trying to figuring out what is hitting with marketing right now. How do you think that may or may not negatively impact your creativity and when you're trying to create things? I feel like it gets in my way a lot. So,
Um,
or do you think you're good at balancing it?
Not so much that. I feel like um, I've learned something. So, one thing I will say, spending all of those years in trad,
Mhm.
you never had to write your own blurbs. You never had to think about what your tropes were. Like, nobody even heard that word, literally,
Yeah.
for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, sort of, but it was more like,
They weren't even a thing when I first
much
started.
broader,
Yeah, in
much broader.
2015, people weren't talking about tropes. We didn't have trope
Well,
reveals and stuff. No, that's
way
not
before
yeah.
then. Like, they would say maybe it's a forced marriage book, or it's a secret identity book, or like,
Mhm.
but you would never get much beyond that.
It
So
was
for
basically a
me,
log
I
line you would have to help pitch it, but that was about it. Yeah.
that was about it. And a lot of, taglines for a while were the big thing, because you could sort of put tropes in it without saying. Like, I remember the first time I saw a trope list, I was like, do readers get this? And what I found out was, this is interesting. Readers that are super dialed into the book community absolutely do get them.
Yeah.
But I went and did a local pop up signing,
Hmm.
with my daughter, who's also an author. And the funniest thing, we both put up like trope lists
Yeah.
at this little pop-up event that was a bookish event, right? So you're thinking these are readers, but they're very casual readers.
Yeah.
And so I had a sign that one of my books had a secret baby in it, and she was like, how do you have a secret baby? You either know you're pregnant or you don't. And I was like, and so it's interesting to me that, there are still readers who are like, I have no idea what the word trope means. And
Yeah.
you try to explain and you're like, well, it's sort of a theme, but not. And yeah.
Yeah. How
So
would
I
you
think,
define? Yeah.
yeah. And so
Somebody who
what I
doesn't know
ended up,
how to define it. Yeah.
yeah. And what I ended up doing was we would put story questions. Like, and my daughter actually thought of this. The first book in her series, she wrote like as a little cutout that she then put into the book, on the shelf. And it said something like, what if you accidentally, what if you were writing an email to somebody, like asking them to teach you how to hit it and quit it, and you accidentally send it to your boss?
Yeah. Okay.
Understood what the book was about. We never mentioned a trope, but if you asked like a story question, they
Yeah.
got it.
That made sense. That makes sense.
It did. I think for me, though, what's interesting is coming from the other perspective of never having had to think about those things for years. It was one of the like love hate things about, TikTok and reels and short videos of that
Ugh,
variety
a
was
bane of my
forcing you,
existence.
though, to understand, because I do things intrinsically. I can't tell you why something works or why something doesn't
Mhm.
all the time, but by virtue of having to condense down, you know, how do you condense 100,000 words into 30 seconds or
Yeah.
less? Like it's
Yeah.
very challenging. And I think then figuring out what people were responding to, which was amazingly eye opening for me,
Yeah.
because what I figured out really quick was sometimes things that would excite me was not what excited the average person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even I felt like when I have to try to figure out the tropes in my own book, because I like write it and then afterwards I go back. I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to have no list all the tropes. I'm like, I don't know the tropes. Like I'm not good at identifying things. So like I have my publicist. She's like, okay, well you have like a sex club in this particular book. You just write elite club, like because I'm like, I don't know this billionaire romance. And she's like, no, you have elite club, and there's also like yacht wedding, and I'm like, who thinks of this stuff? Like, like I just don't, I'm not good at like knowing even my own tropes. So like I actually have like a team of people that like help me like find all my tropes because I don't know how to pick them out.
And I did the same thing for a long time, and I've actually gotten a lot more like more sure about this kind of thing. Like I'm doing it with more purpose.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things you asked me about my Forbidden Confessions series, and I just went off. But it was one of the things that I wrote kind of for me because what I realized I
And that
wasn't
that book's coming
finding.
out now. When is that book coming out?
It'll be out probably March-ish.
Okay.
I'm like partway through it, and after spending almost a month, I kid you not, from bed to desk, 14 to 16 hours a day. Like the book I just finished that released, I guess I could have told you the title too. That would have been awesome. It was called The Commitment, by the way. Um,
The one that's coming out in March
no, the one that just came out,
just came out. Okay. Okay. It's the one that just came
my
out.
MFM saga.
Okay.
But the book was, we've been trying to write it for a long time, and like about 5 years.
Hmm.
And we have left people strung for 5 years, not intentionally,
Hmm.
but in that 5 year period, we lost a co author who got divorced and said, I can't write anymore. And then we lost three of our poor parents and two mothers in law in 5 years. Plus, like her adopted son just broke his back. She had to move her father in law across the country. Like everything that could go wrong. It took us almost 10 months to write this book because
Wow.
everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And so finally, after the holidays, everything calmed down, and we had already moved the book out twice.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm not doing this again. I don't care what it takes. I
Let's
don't
just
care
get
what
it
I have to
done. Yeah.
do.
Hmm.
Yeah. So consequently, I need a little time off before I tackle the
Yeah.
next book in the Forbidden Confession series, which will be called Owned by Him. And I started doing these because they were tropey. And I wanted to do something that I wasn't finding out there really easily. So I
Mhm.
call these my sexy bedtime stories.
Okay.
And they're meant to be like you can start it after dinner and not be up till 3 in the morning. Like it's a complete story, start to finish, but you can read it in about 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
And so you're going to get all the character, all the sexy time, a little bit of suspense
Mhm.
or whatever, and be done. Because I was finding that I was, when you get into bed at night, you're like, I want to read something, but
Yeah.
I don't want to be up all night. Like I have things to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
So and everybody was talking about these giant tomes, and I'm like, I don't have time to read that right now, but I can read about 40,000 words.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's all of these are between 25 and 45,000 words. And it's fun because you can get in and get enough character development and get enough relationship and emotion and all of that with some plot and then be like, and we're done now. And you got a whole story. Yay.
Yeah, that I see. I can't write short. I tend to get like super wordy, and I wish I need to get better at doing that because I feel like if
Actually,
I could do
that's another
that,
reason I started doing it. I was like, I have to be flexible.
yeah,
So I can write the 20,000 word book and I can write the
mm,
160,000 word book.
yeah, yeah. So, well, I wanted to get into skincare, which we can try to get to like at the end if we have some time, but there are reader questions that were submitted that I want to get to. So before I move on to that, I just want to remind everybody to hit the like button and because it does help our visibility so that more people can find things like this. We're growing slowly. We're coming up on the end of this. There's one more episode after you, and then I'm taking a break to the fall because I have to write words. So, but it's been like a lot of fun. I've been really enjoying this. So, all right, here we go. So we have reader question number one. I have Lila. She is from Decorah, Iowa. This is for both of us. I give an option on the questionnaire form who they want the question for, if it's me, you, or both of us. She says, "Do you ever reread your older books?" I, not reread, but I cringe sometimes when I look at the editing of some of my older stuff.
Have a tendency because I don't have a lot of time to read, but I do like re-listen to some books, but it's not really of my books. It's not really about my words particularly. Like I have some favorite narrators, so I like their performances.
Me too.
But no, I tend not to go back too much unless like I'm having to do that now for some I'm going to make some like TikTok style things to make for some more Facebook ads. But
Content.
some books like I haven't read in so long, I'm like I should probably go back and remember because now I have over 100 books. It's like it used to live in my head and now I'm like it's just too much to keep in my head
Yeah.
anymore.
No, for me it was more of because when I basically have my stone saga and that's like my tree trunk and I've got things spinning off of there, it was I had to go back and reread them. Not actually, I can't even say reread. I was skimming through them because I needed to create like book Bibles because I was forgetting. I mean, this is a book I wrote, the first book in that series is something from 10 years ago. And as much as I knew the characters, is what I forgot was the names of like the side characters and things. I'm like, oh, I can't reuse that name. I already used that like for like the guy who opens the door for her. Or so you know what I mean? Like something, weird things like that I had to do. So
It's why I have multiple characters named Dan and Peter. They're always like side characters. I'm never going to write a main story about Dan or Peter. I don't know why.
okay, so we've got Paige from Beaufort, I think is how you pronounce it, South Carolina. She wants to know which character is your favorite and who stayed with you the longest.
I'm so bad about favorites because I'm just such a mood person.
Mhm.
Um, I could tell you like a favorite from every different series, but I don't have like one. I know that sounds really weird, but I really don't have one favorite. I think some couples that always resonate with me for different reasons from Wicked Lovers. It's probably everybody will think it's Jack and Morgan from Wicked Ties, but it's really for me, it was always the characters from Belong to Me,
Yeah, this
Tara
she's
and
an FBI agent.
yes,
Yes, that's my favorite book by you, actually.
it's honestly one of my favorite books. And what's hysterical about that is, the Edgington brothers, I wrote them back to back, and I had so much trouble with Hunter. Like, he was literally one of the most difficult books I ever wrote. He just argued with me constantly. he was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I was like, dude, you have to like slow. No, okay, we're doing this. And my editor, when I turned that book in, I was like, I said to her, you're going to hate this because I'm not even sure that this is, I'm so confused now because I spent all this time fighting with him, and she loved it. And then when I turned in Logan and Tara's book, Belong to Me, um, I loved it. That was exactly what I wanted to say. And we argued and I
Yeah.
was like, no, I'm not changing that, I'm sorry. I'm just not. And so, I ended up getting my way. But yeah, that was for me. I think Logan and Tara. um, I have a romantasy series that almost nobody knows about. It's so hard to say to your existing sort of dark romance audience, like, hey, I've written a dark romantasy, by the way, because
Those
I
have some
needed.
beautiful covers though, those books.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
love them
Yeah.
too. But the couple from Possess Me at Midnight, Ice and Sibel, is maybe one of my favorite couples of all time. Ice might be one of my favorite heroes that I've ever written. I just absolutely adore that man,
I need to
start to
read
finish.
some of your romantasy stuff because when I'm writing, I can't read anything
In the
remotely
same genre?
yes, I can't. I can't do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Can't do it
So
either.
because their characters they screw me up. Like they get in my head when I'm supposed to be writing mine, and like when I'm trying to write, like I don't know, like they get jumbled. I don't know how to describe it. So I can't read. I'm either reading nonfiction, like political, autobiographies or something like that, or I'm going into like romantasy or something that's not even
Historical
romantic at
or
all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I find it's not so much that I think I'm going to pick up somebody else's like words or tone or like, but there's a part of me that's like, I don't even want to get confused. I
Yeah.
don't even want to sit there and go, because I did that once and I was thinking that I was in a location and I was like, wait, that's not my location.
I found it was for me, it was when I was really struggling with writer's block. With the last book that I released. I'm actually working on book two. And that's when I realized I can't read other things like that are like what I'm writing when I'm trying to write when I'm trying to write, because I was trying to get to know my characters, right? I told you like the character arc and building their personalities, that doesn't come very easy to me. So as I'm trying to build this brand new couple they're new to me. It's not, I was struggling to like build them because I would have these other people in my head that for the book that I'm reading, and I'm like, no, but that's not who it is. And it was, I don't know, it was just really strange. So I had to like stop. So I basically didn't read a romance book for like 2 years because of because of this
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. So I have another one from Kara from Sisters Oregon. She wants to know, who are some of your favorite authors? I have a lot of them, so that's hard.
You know what? I don't, this is so strange. I don't have favorite authors. I have favorite books because what I find
That's a good, yeah,
is,
good analogy. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, everybody will go into a series and say, oh, but my favorite book from this series is, and I feel like so many authors have different, themes and messages in every book, and some are just going to resonate with you more than others, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's for me the way it's been. There's a lot of, individual
Mhm.
books in a series that I just find, and so my keeper shelf is very weird.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it, because there's some authors who I love, but I can't do some of their stuff. Like, and I know Pam, I know she doesn't care if I say this because she'll probably take it as like a badge of honor. But Pam Godwin, there's some like books that I love, like Dark Notes. Loved Dark Notes. Loved a recent like Hills of or Shivers and Shadows. I forget what the name of her most recent, her Alaskan books series was. It was a trilogy. Loved it, but I can't do her Deliver series. Way too dark for me. Cannot do it. And but I love her writing. She's got beautiful prose. I just can't go that dark. And that is that's probably a really good analogy. Like I love books, not necessarily the actual author. Yeah.
There are some people who write so beautifully
Hmm.
that even subjects that I'm not particularly interested in, I will read them just because of their
Hmm.
beautiful words.
Hmm.
And even if it's not my favorite book of all time, I can still appreciate it. And
Yeah.
then there are some people who will write the thing that I think, oh, I'm going to love everything about this, but for whatever reason, their spin or where they end up, or, thematically, it just didn't get there for me. And theme is a big deal for me. It's an intrinsic thing for me. I don't think about it. It just happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have Erin from Savannah, Georgia. She wants to know, again, this is another one for both of us. What was the hardest book for you to write emotionally? Well, I actually already talked about it for me. It was The Sound of Silence. That book, it
Yeah.
was like a sleeping with the enemy story, and it was very emotionally. I needed like a palate cleanser after that.
Right. I think for a long time, like I said, one of the hardest books for me, because I am so focused on character. Like it's story starts for me with characters. So if I'm going to have a hard time with a character like I did with Hunter Edgington, who just wanted to fight the whole time,
Mhm.
I was like, I need you to do this. And he would be like, no, no. And every time I would be like, I'm going to make you do this, the book would just dead halt. Like, so I literally had to backtrack and do whatever it is he wanted to do, that stubborn man.
It's a
And I've
lot of
had a few
mental
characters like that.
gymnastics.
Yeah. I had other books that were difficult, in 2022. I had some books I was releasing and that were more difficult. My daughter graduated from college, and 3 weeks later I lost my dad. So it was just one of those things where mentally I wasn't in a good place.
Mhm.
It wasn't the book, it was the situation.
Yeah.
I think the book I just released, The Commitment, was really challenging because, like I said, we had put off writing this book. Every time we were going to start, literally the running joke was, who's going to die if we start writing this
Mhm.
book? Because you get to gallows humor after a while. You're just
Yeah.
like, this is so utterly ridiculous.
Yeah,
um
well, I just lost my mother-in-law, and like that was, yeah, so that's why we had to
yeah,
reschedule our recording because of that. And
yeah,
it is
and
a
I
challenge because it's not just your own grief, it's also you have your whole family, their grief, and trying to support them and what they're
yeah,
going through. And
yeah,
work is at the end of the day, work is work. It'll still be there
yeah.
when everything
And
settles.
we had sort of the added challenge with my mother-in-law because we had just moved her here and moved her into an assisted facility, living facility, and 4 days later she was in the hospital. So we had just moved her in, and then we had to move her back at, like, it was a whole
Mm,
situation, right? So yeah, and I completely understand. It's never fun, it's never easy, it's never, and as we were writing The Commitment, and Jenna just lost her mother-in-law and moved her father-in-law across the country, and he's an 84-year-old diabetic. Like, he's just lost.
yeah.
And, trying to juggle making sure he's taken care of and everything's okay, and the rest of the family, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a lot. And so we came to the end where we had been talking for a long time. We had three possible endings. It was incredibly stressful. And we had to sit down one day, like right around, I think it was New Year's Day, and we sat down and had a very long conversation. We're like, okay, we're here. Here's our three possible endings. Let's talk through each of them, and figure out which one makes the most sense from where we are, how much time we have, and thematically where we're trying to go.
Yeah.
Because what we ended up figuring out was this was a lot about found family. So we ended up choosing kind of the ending that most aligned with that.
Wow.
Super difficult.
Yeah. But still, your process with the co-write is fascinating to me. So,
It's really bizarre, honestly, and it evolves. It's never the same thing, which is even odder in a way. You would think like you get a process and it works and you would stay with it.
no, but I think the way we are, the way we write, the way we operate, the way everything is constantly evolving. The industry is constantly changing. What readers want, what we want to be, what we want to write in order to feel fulfilled. I feel like that is always changing too. So it makes sense. It makes sense that the
Well, and
process
I think
changes.
I get asked a lot, like, advice. How do you know that you should write with this person or not write with this person? And what I ended up realizing was you really have to write with somebody who values the same things in a story that you do,
Hmm.
because ultimately decisions have to be made. And if you value different things in a story, how do you ever make that function?
Yeah.
and not spend all your time doing this.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I think that I really appreciate, like Jenna and I appreciate about each other, because we value a lot of the same things, but um we've been friends so long now that it's like, if she's falling down, I'm there. If I'm falling down, she's there. Like somebody will pick up the slack. So there were times where we were working independently on this book, and we would come back like weeks later and go, okay, here's where we are.
Yeah.
And, jump right back in.
Yeah. See, that's the hard part why I hesitate to co-write, because I don't want the pressure, because life can life, right? And I am just, or like, naturally a slower writer. I can't write very fast. As much as I've tried, I've like, if I can write 4,000 words in a day, that's like a miracle. That's like the best day ever. I'm typically, if I'm writing, it's like 1,500 words is the average good day for me.
Yeah,
Um,
1,500 to 2,000. And then I want to sit in it and think about it for a little bit.
and it's mentally exhausting when after
It
I do
is.
that. It's very draining. And so I feel like having the pressure of answering to like a co-author, whoever I co-wrote with, they would have to be like on the same page, like no pressure type thing.
That's
Like,
actually what we ended up doing with this last book was we finally came up with a saying. We're like, life is going to life. And
mhm,
so whatever we have going that day, whatever has to get done, whatever, we're like, we just finally went, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And we actually had started this book last May.
mhm.
And that's how long, like, I had other books come out in the meantime. She had a lot of life. I had some life, like stuff happening. And we
Yeah,
finally
but
just
if you
went,
started it last May, but it's a 160,000 word book. It's a long book. So that's
and
actually,
released two other books in the middle of
yeah,
that too.
that's a lot. That's a lot of words you wrote. So I wouldn't beat yourself up over that too much. Like,
You have this, how it is when you start a book, you have this like fantasy idea of how wonderful, and you do get
mhm.
that gift of a book every once in a while that just falls out of you. And
Yes.
it's just one of the most delicious experiences, because
Mhm.
you're like, it was like it lived in my head. And I'm convinced that really all books live in your head. And kind of our job is to get out of the way and let the subconscious tell its
Mhm.
story.
Yes,
But getting
absolutely.
out of the way is a lot harder than it
Yeah.
sounds.
So, well, that kind of the next question is actually one that I feel like we get asked this, it gets asked a lot in the question, but every author's answer is a little bit different. So I usually will just ask it anyways. Nicole from Mystic, Connecticut, she wants to know, what advice would you give to new romance writers?
I think obviously the number one thing is read, 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 because I think so many of us, our desire to write came out of reading
Mhm.
something wonderful and amazing and spectacular, and then something where you were like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Um, and I know, okay, the hubris of the young. Like, I started trying to write when I was about 18. And I had read some amazing books. Like, I used to have the biggest, nobody will know who this is anymore because she retired forever ago, but I used to have the most amazing crush on Laverl Spencer. She was one of the most beautiful, lyrical, just rich and super developed. Like, I loved her books, and I didn't care whether they were historicals or contemporaries, or it didn't matter. She had the most amazing storytelling voice. Like, I just loved everything about her books. And I remember like aspiring, wanting to be that person who could just, it didn't matter what the book was about. When you opened it, you would be like, I'm going to hear this voice. And that was, what was meaningful to me.
Mhm.
So at like 18, I was like, I remember telling my mother, like, I'm going to I'm going to be an author someday. And she went, cute. You don't even read. And I was like, well, I do now, and I'm going to figure it out, which
I have
she
like a
thought
super,
was,
I have a super like Catholic family. So I didn't tell anybody I was writing books and then because of stupid social media and like friend suggestions, Dakota Willink had a whole different personality over here. And then there was, my legal name over here. Well, because my legal personality was friends with Dakota Willink. Dakota Willink was a friend suggestion to my
yeah,
family, and my family was like, "Oh my God, somebody stole your identity." I'm like, "No, they didn't." It's
the
like,
opposite. I was like such a rebel child that I I told everybody, like, this is what I'm going to do. And my family thinks it's really odd. And they're like, so you're just going to sit there and write super sexy books? I'm like, yep.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're not at all ashamed? Nope.
No.
Nope.
And that's
We
just
all
it.
do
I
it.
don't
So
feel like it's weird. So like my mother, like she's read all the books, right? And as
my
much as I
mother
hate
is
that
not a
she's read,
reader.
I hate that she's read the books because my mom is my mom. I love her to death, but you know, there's just things. So and she'll just say things like, well, why did you have to write, put the club in there? That was kind of weird. I'm like, Mom, then don't read it. Don't read my
Yeah,
books. And like, it was one of those, like, I wish, like, that's fine. Support me, go buy it, but leave it on a shelf. Like, you don't
yeah,
have to read the book because you clearly don't even like it. So I don't know why, like, but oh, it is what it is. It's
it
fine.
is.
It's whatever.
I think the other advice I would give somebody is like an inspiring author is listen to things about story structure.
Hmm.
I think so many of us start as, you know, you're doing this thing based on a gut instinct, right?
Hmm.
Like, here's the story in my head, and this is the story I want to tell. But I don't think I paid attention to anything about story structure for probably a decade.
Yeah.
And then it was like a light bulb went off the first time I listened to Michael Haig. I was like, wait, what? Oh,
Yeah, I was about
oh,
5 years in before I started like actually listening to like story structure. And surprisingly, I actually hit all the beats without knowing I was doing it, but now it's more purposeful. Yeah.
exactly.
Hmm.
You're intentional about what you're doing as opposed to like just, winging it,
Yeah.
which, but I think because I started so young, um, I I didn't I just I there were no resources. I mean, you're talking pre-internet even.
Mhm. Yeah.
So other than going to a local RWA meeting, um, that was really my only. I didn't even know there were books out there to
Yeah.
help you. And then eventually, I started devouring them, and I loved them. I read a bunch of them.
Hmm.
Um, but I think for me, I think it's important to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and have, even if you're not a plotter per se, to have some idea about what it is you want to accomplish with the book, even if you don't know how you're going to get there, but to have some idea about what it is you want this book to be. I think the book without a vision, you see a lot of kind of wandering, and you know what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
like, because I've done it too, where you're like, I need to write a will, figure out where I'm going.
Hmm.
And then you end up cutting stuff, and it's
Yeah.
frustrating. Like, I think since I've been more intentional about where I'm going, the process is faster. And I
You're not
feel,
cutting as many words. Yeah. When I think back
yeah,
on my original, like the first 5 years before I like had a structure, my God, the amount of words I used to have, like pages and pages of like Word documents of deleted script that I would just delete out of the manuscript and I would throw it over here just in case I wanted to use it again for something or
but you
another.
almost never do,
I
right?
never do. I've never used any of it. Yeah. I mean, maybe a few sentences here or there, but that was basically about it. But I remember, and I don't do that anymore. I don't delete
Yeah.
big chunks like I used to. And yeah.
This last book was the first time I've done that in probably a decade and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do it anymore, but when we decided to change some, from one ending to another, basically,
Yeah.
we ended up having to cut a few scenes. And I was actually kind of relieved because I was sitting there going, I think even I knew as we were writing some of those scenes, I was like, this isn't serving the story the way I thought
Yeah.
it was going
Mhm.
to.
And
And
that's
do you
another
notice
thing
that
too. I
sometimes you
feel like
have
I
a,
tackle every chapter I'm writing now. I also feel like, is this advancing the plot? Like that's because there are some books that I've read, very popular books that I loved the start of the series, and then you can tell that it was became more about like money and like because it didn't advance the plot into the next book, and it happens in all genres.
yeah,
And yeah, so now I feel like because I'm noticing that more and more, that now I feel like I'm more purposeful in the way that I'm writing because if I'm picking it up as a reader, my readers are picking it up for me if I'm doing it.
those readers too. And I've seen them because this is not my thing, but I have seen readers who are like that sort of slice of life book. They're
Hmm.
not necessarily looking for a whole lot of advancement or forward movement. Some people just like it's almost like the bubblegum books, right? some people, the palate cleansers, some people just really, really want that. And when, they're feeling heavy, the world feels heavy or what, like, I understand.
Mhm.
Like sometimes you just want that escape.
Yeah.
For
Mhm.
me, I don't think I've ever, it's not my brand. I've never billed
Yeah.
myself as the light author
Yeah.
because I'm just never going to be. That's not how my
Even
brain
my
functions at all.
contemporaries are they're not super light. When I said I did like the palette cleanser, they're not. They're still like, I still have like, I'm like, what am I doing with this character? I'm like, oh, we're gonna have a fire. He's gonna die. And there's like stuff like I still have like there's still some dark stuff in
Yeah.
within the books, even though it's my lighter works. Yeah.
Even my Read Family Reckoning series, even though I say it's sort of the mid-range, like, I mean, for me, like,
Yeah.
I still have, this is still a book based on family trauma, or
Mhm.
a series based on a lot of family
Yeah.
trauma, and, bracketed by, a patriarch figure who had kids all over the place. And so here are all these adult children meeting each other for the first time.
Yeah.
And, kind of the trauma of figuring out how he screwed up everybody's lives in totally different ways. They're not light books. There are light things, but,
Yeah.
I'm still like not a super, I'm just not a light person.
All right. We have been talking very long, which is fine. I mean, normally I go about 45 minutes, but this was a great conversation, so I was fine with it. Before we just wrap things up, what is your unpopular opinion?
Oh, my unpopular opinion is peeps are disgusting.
Oh, that's not unpopular. They are so gross. They are
It's
disgusting.
a number of people like every Easter, and I'm like, no, please don't send me peeps. Send
No,
me anything else, but peeps are gross.
they
They
are
will go in
gross.
the trash.
That's all right. My unpopular opinion is that Valentine's Day is a Hallmark holiday. I swear, my husband and I are like, are we doing anything? And like we literally look at each other. We're like, nah. Like it's
Actually wrote it into one of my Read Family books. Actually, the second book in the series is called More Than Needs You, and it's a second chance book. And he literally is like, I swear, because this whole series is told exclusively from his point of view until the very last chapter.
uh-huh.
So he's like, I swear somebody made up this holiday to make single people miserable. And he's like, every year I feel like I go into some bar and find somebody who can't stand it either. And he's like, literally, the shitbaggery usually ends about 2 a.m. with a shower and a lot of regret.
Yeah.
And I just wish I never had.
Oh, that's so funny. All right, can you tell me real quick before we say our goodbyes, what is your skincare routine? Because
You know,
just
it's
what's your favorite product right now? You might not have like a you might be trying different things all the time, but you always have like perfect skin.
what, the thing that I think, especially as we get toward 40,
Mhm.
making that mental shift from I have to worry about breakouts to now I have to worry about being dry
Mhm.
and, my skin showing its age. The thing I think people overlook a lot is, well, two things: exfoliant,
Mhm.
like 3 times a week, religiously. I never miss, I never skip. Have a good, and I like a good physical exfoliant. If you have super sensitive skin, Dermalogica makes a really good, and I can't think of the name of it, and my bottle just ran out, but they do make a good, it's like a daily glycolic
Mhm.
cleanser. And it's a good, chemical exfoliant. It's very, very gentle though, because Dermalogica is all pretty gentle for the most part. And then oils, rosehip oil. If you're new to oils, start with something really mild like a rosehip oil. Make sure it's cold pressed, um, and just add it to your moisturizer. I don't know that I'd go all in if you're not used to that level of moisture, but if you start adding a drop or two to your moisturizer, see what your kind of tolerance is for the amount of moisture that your skin will take. Particularly this time of year, as it's winter,
That's
it's
actually a really good
drier.
tip. It's something I don't do. I have all like I'm very into like the Medicube Korean skincare. I've tried different things and I've figured out my favorite products, what works best with my skin, but I think I might add that because I'm still having some dry. Even like when I'm like wipe everything off at night and I'm loading up with the moisturizer, when I wake up, my skin just feels like it's just dry.
It,
Yeah.
and they don't make it anymore, and I'm very sad. The Ordinary had a 5.5% retinol in squalene oil, which is squalene is higher up on the moisturizing side. So as you get older, moving from a rose hip to a squalene or something, more heavier, there's no other way to put it, right?
Yeah.
And I always tell people also, never underestimate, like, even a water bottle. I'm kind of married to the Mario Badescu, the rose. It's called, it's rose and something, I can't remember. But they're sprays at between steps, because when you try to put a moisturizer on dry skin, it sits. If you have a little bit of moisture on, it will sink into your pores more. So you will actually get more benefits. And then the other thing that people overlook a lot, and I'm still bad about it, I'm trying to get better. Don't put on your skincare at night and then immediately go lay down, because most of that's going to wind up on your pillow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All right, rose hip oil. It's added to my list. I knew you were going to have something for me. I'm like, so what should I be adding that like so,
Made a difference for me. I really found, at that point, it's so easy, especially when you put on your makeup, to look super dry,
mhm.
because all that stuff just sticks, right?
Yeah.
And by the way, another good one, if you've never tried, this is a daytime thing, but if you've never tried the Eborian CC creams,
Okay.
they're fabulous. SPF 50. I'm wearing it today.
Mhm.
It's just a slightly tinted moisturizer, but it's so light, and it gives you just enough that you're like, yay.
That's what I need, is like a nice tinted moisturizer, so I'm not doing foundation every day, because that's one
Boring.
thing I find, like especially now with my like just the skin being drier and whatnot. Even though I'm like moisturizing, I feel like it's just not sitting right on my face
To
moisture.
a point where just the moisturizer is not enough. And I think that's what
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know. And I stumbled into the oil thing.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm so happy that I did, because it made such a giant difference in my skin.
Perfect. All right then. I'm gonna wrap this up because we kept everybody here like long, but like I said, I think it was a great conversation. So thank you so much for joining me for the Valentine's Day episode. And again, happy belated birthday. Is there
Happy
anything else?
Valentine's, everyone.
Is there anything else you want to add?
You know what? I will give a little plug if y'all don't mind.
Go for it.
I do a Wicked Wednesday live on YouTube every Wednesday night with my husband.
Oh,
We're
you moved it to YouTube
crazy.
because it used to be in your Facebook group. Now you're on YouTube.
To YouTube, we had
Oh, all
too
right,
many
yeah.
technical difficulties, and then when they stopped letting you, do videos into your groups anymore,
Yeah.
because we started it just as a thing for our group, but it
Yeah.
just grew bigger than we
Yeah.
could really do in the group anymore. And so we ended up moving it to YouTube. So join us every Wednesday night. We do talk about industry things, we talk about book things, we talk about life things. We're just sort of generally crazy. So
Yeah, it's actually really good to know. I'll send you this. You can put it over on your channel too if you want it, because I feel like this was a fun
we're on
conversation.
every Wednesday night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific.
All right. All right, sounds great then. Then that's it. Everybody that's listening, please make sure that you check out the comments in the YouTube description, because all of our where to follow us and where to find us, and I'll also link your YouTube channel in there now that I know that you're doing this over on YouTube, so people can follow you over there as well. Then that's it, everyone. Until I see you next time, that's a wrap. All right, bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into the More Than Words podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button and consider sharing it with your friends so more people can find us. The more people we have listening, the more fun we can have on our shows. And most of all, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting authors everywhere. Thanks and happy reading.